Clay's Corner, Dynasty Ratings over Rankings. And this is a topic I feel needs to be discussed often and regularly, as most of the Dynasty industry does use a ranking system, which I feel is a little outdated. I am Russell Clay. I am a Fantasy Guru staff writer. And sometimes I like to mess around on YouTube, make some fun videos. I also, this will be an article form on the fantasyguru.com website. We have a ton of great stuff going on over there. So if you want to check out me, Jeff Manns, Armando Marsal, Tyler Beaker, and all those guys, definitely check out fantasyguru.com. I will put that link in the description. Before we do get into this article today, which I do think is a good one, if I do say so myself, if you like this video or you like the information that I provide here, feel free to give this video a like, and also feel free to subscribe to the channel. And hey, in the comments, who are you thinking about for Dynasty right now? We're going to be talking about wide receivers today, but who are the players as we head into the offseason you're sort of thinking about for today? All right, let's get into it. I figured we could start with the Fantasy Guru Dynasty Rankings, which I have posted here in a screenshot form. This is the top 18 or so, that first couple tiers of wide receivers. And I was talking to my buddy Nate List today, an outraged Jew on Twitter. I know, derogatory, but I love Nate. Great guy, great Dynasty content over on his Patreon and all that. But we were talking about where CeeDee Lamb fits in the Dynasty landscape. Some are calling him overrated, had sort of a dud to the end of the year, and especially in that Cowboys playoff game against the 49ers, really kind of struck out. And that's causing a lot of people to either move him down their Dynasty rankings or sort of change their mind on how they view him as a Dynasty asset. And the conversation right now is CeeDee Lamb a top 5 Dynasty wide receiver, or are people still viewing him as a valuable future asset? I guess to quickly address that, number one, I'm not changing anything on CeeDee Lamb after this year. 1,100 total yards in his age 22 season after breaking 1,000 yards in his rookie season. Ultimately, we didn't get the fantasy season we wanted out of him from a season-long perspective. However, if anything, 2021 reinforces that he's going to be a very special player. Now, does he land in the, never really hits the high-end ceiling range of outcomes? I mean, maybe that's a possibility. However, most guys don't hit their ceiling in terms of fantasy production until, age 24 to 27. That's kind of when we see the Cooper Kupps, the Debos, the Devontae Adams, the Tyreek Hills. All those guys are kind of hitting their stride the last couple years, but Adams wasn't doing much for the first couple years. Debo didn't do much in his first couple years. Neither Kupp had some good years, but he never had a great year. So be patient. Be patient with these guys. It's hard to be patient over multiple years because we play Dynasty and then we get into the year and we're like, why is CeeDee Lamb not producing what I paid for him in that startup this year? We're getting off track, though. We're 4 minutes in. And we got to get to the focus of today's video, though. So, why do I think ratings are as important or more important than a ranking? Well, I would argue that a ranking doesn't show the rating discrepancy between this. So we see Cooper Kupp and Tyreek Hill, 89 to 86. That's a 3-point difference. And a teardrop, but we don't see that represented. It's just 8 to 9. And from the same perspective, CeeDee Lamb is a 96 down to DK Metcalf 93, AJ Brown 91. So sometimes there's some huge teardrops, and I don't think that gets represented even from a ranking and a tier perspective. I don't think that illustrates that enough. And also it doesn't represent eras, right? So when we're talking about Jamar Chase being 100 rating, right, that means the best it could possibly be. And I do believe that. It took me a while to put Chase up that high, but when a guy's producing that, I use a general range for an elite season as 1,300 receiving yards and 12 touchdowns. That's basically you're dominating. Well, Jamar Chase did that in his age 21 season. This is some Randy Moss type stuff. We don't see this very often, and I think it's fair to put Chase in that type of territory right now. The Calvins, we'll look at some of those guys later on, but it's a huge difference, right? Because the wide receiver one, and we will talk about this in a bit, but the wide receiver one in Dynasty at a given time could have much different values than at a given time. Like, there was no 100 over the last 5 years. There was no real wide receiver one. There was a player who was ranked number one, but there was nobody approaching the value that Jamar Chase is about to have in a dynasty league right now. There was nobody. And, you could argue Justin Jefferson as well is very high up there. Some people want to have him, right near Chase. And, a 97, there was probably no 97s either. I would say, even when Adams and Hill broke out, they never really bumped above this 95 level for me. And you can check, I've been doing the ratings for about a year now. They never really had that, age 21 wide receiver one season. So that's where Chase is differentiating himself. And that's where I'm going to make the argument here. We're moving into another wide receiver golden age, which we haven't seen since the early 2010s. So we have seen this type of wide receiver quality before, but we've been in a bit of a dip here for about the last half decade. So if you look at these, you see Chase, Jefferson, Lamb, Metcalf, Brown, Adams, Samuel, Kupp, Hill. Like, we have a very strong top 9 right now of wide receivers, with a bunch of young guys coming after them. Waddle, Moore, Ridley, Higgins, Pittman, Williams. We have a really, really strong core right now, compared to the previous, 5 or so years. Just think 2 years ago, we didn't have the 2 best guys, or we didn't have the top 3 guys. These guys weren't in the NFL yet. And we just kind of had Metcalf and Brown. And Metcalf and Brown, when they came in 2019, looked like, holy crap, these guys are amazing. But it wasn't really that they were great. They were really good. It was just that we had no one to market correct them. And that's kind of what's happening now. So it's not that CeeDee Lamb is bad. I think in a lot of circumstances, he would be a great wide receiver one in Dynasty. However, with Chase and Jefferson doing what they're doing, it's making Lamb look much worse despite him putting up a great early career. So let's dive into some of these other things. We're going to look at 2019. So take a look at this, right? We had Michael Thomas, age 26, putting up an enormous year. But then we had Chris Godwin, 23, put up a nice year, 276. Julio Jones at age 30 was the wide receiver 3, 274. And then we kind of had, a bunch of older veterans, Hopkins, Allen, Kupp, Edelman at age 33. These were the guys, Allen Robinson, Kenny Golladay, Amari Cooper. Look at that. Everyone in the top 15 other than Chris Godwin, was 25 or older, and nobody was really putting up those ceiling seasons. We had a bunch of 1,300-yard seasons, a bunch of 1,100-yard seasons, but Michael Thomas was really the only guy putting up those high ceiling seasons, and we knew that at the time, right? This was when the running back landscape was recovering, and it was just pretty dreary. There wasn't much to get excited about, so people got excited about the veterans, right? So we saw Hopkins being valued maybe a little higher than a 27-year-old receiver should be valued. Same thing with Julio. He held his value longer because there were no guys coming up behind this crew here. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. And even the young guys in the top 20, Moore and Chark, it's like, were they even guys people got really excited about? Not really. So keep an eye on this. 270, only two guys finished with above 200, or only one guy finished with above 280 fantasy points for wide receivers in 2019, right? And I'm bringing you back down memory lane to prove a point here. Here's 2013, the last golden age we had, was just insane. We had about 6 guys that I would consider 95 or higher in a dynasty ranking at a time. And, you know, you can kind of shift to 2010 to 2013. This is the year where they all hit, but we kind of knew about Demarius, AJ Green, Calvin, Dez, Julio, and then we had Josh Gordon, you know, basically eviscerating the NFL in this age 22 season, 1,600 receiving yards. So we had huge years. Look at this. We had 11 guys above 275 fantasy points in 2013. It was insane. We had the Peyton Manning at his apex. We had, you know, this mix of older vets who were still awesome, and, you know, Jordy Nelson, Andre Johnson, Calvin, and then we had this new group coming into their apex, Demarius, AJ Green, Julio. Not sure where he is this year. Maybe he got hurt or something, but, you know, Dez putting up his 1,213 touchdowns. We had a bunch of guys with just enormous years. So, the point is that the wide receiver landscape can look very, very different. And, you know, a wide receiver ranking, a dynasty ranking, doesn't illustrate that. So being the wide receiver 1 in this landscape is much different than being the wide receiver 1 in 2019. It's just a completely different world. We had Dez Bryant, who might have been outside your top, you know, top 5 dynasty wide receivers, and he was putting up enormous years. Now, at that time, he was probably my wide receiver 1, and things tailed off pretty quickly after that. But the point is, you know, we had some really high pedigree guys hitting their apex, scoring an immense amount of fantasy points, and we're getting back to that with Chase and Jefferson and Lamb. But that's kind of what I want to talk about with Lamb. In this 2017 to 2020 dynasty landscape, he would be the wide receiver 1 in dynasty. However, we're coming into this era of there's, you know, Demarius. We can say, okay, that's Chase. You know, Josh Gordon, we can say that's, you know, without the off-field concerns, that's Justin Jefferson. You know, AJ Green, you know, we could say that's AJ Brown, and then we could say Julio is DK Metcalf. So we're coming back into this area where we have a bunch of guys pushing that upper tier where we just didn't have any of those. So moving on, let's look at Randy Moss and kind of talk more about Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, and all that. This is rare. This is Randy Moss's career. He started out with 1,317. And that's kind of where Chase was at this year. Didn't quite have the same touchdown production, but this is the range he's in, and we need to value him accordingly. This doesn't happen very often. Most players don't break out in year one, especially into a wide receiver one season. So as long as Jamar Chase stays on the field, this is what we're looking at. And just because CeeDee Lamb isn't putting up Randy Moss numbers doesn't mean he's bad. It just means the landscape is being inflated. I'll show you another one. This is Calvin. So sort of a better example if you're looking at CeeDee Lamb. I don't think CeeDee Lamb is Calvin, but Calvin only had 800 receiving yards in his rookie year. Then he had that big second year, which is 2,100 total yards from scrimmage in the first 2 years, right? That's how many CeeDee Lamb has through 2 years. So then he had a mediocre third year. And then the big seasons came, age 25, age 26, age 27, et cetera, et cetera. So not all these guys are going to jump out the gate and produce that high-end season, but we can still value them because of what they've shown us on the field. Calvin didn't have a huge year one, but you could see it. You could see it was coming. You can see it with Lamb, just kind of like you did with DeAndre Hopkins at the beginning of the 2010s. It's like, okay, this guy's going to be good. He's going to produce some big fantasy seasons. We know that's going to happen. We know it's going to happen with Lamb. Is it going to be Jamar Chase? Probably not. It's probably not going to be close to Jamar Chase, and that's okay. Pushing Jamar Chase up doesn't mean we have to push CeeDee Lamb down. It just means Jamar Chase is up there. So that's kind of what I wanted to focus on today. Again, and here's Chase, 1,455 and 13 on 81 receptions. Just an obscene year. Obviously, he played 17 games, but he would have had that big year regardless. So, point being, doing a ranking and saying, all right, CeeDee Lamb's dropping down because Chase, Jefferson, maybe you like Debo, maybe you like Cooper Kupp at the higher age. Maybe you're moving all those guys up. Maybe you like A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf better as well. So you got CeeDee Lamb down at 7 in your rankings. However, does that mean you value him less, or he's just in an era of really great dynasty wide receivers? And that's what I would argue. So that's all I want to talk about for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. As I said, if you like this video or got anything out of it, please give this video a like and also subscribe. And if you're on Fantasy Guru, thank you for checking that out. And as always, there will be more to come. Check out other things on the channel. I thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you on the other side.